Hey guys, Maris here. I just wanted to put up a quick video, kind of expressing some thoughts on a new post that happened on Final Fantasy XIV regarding a hotfix that was from last night. Which they put up a post, but then covered it by putting a patch note right over top of it, like as if it was something that was to be completely forgotten. And I don't like the way that they did that. They did it passive aggressively rather than just put it out front. I mean, I know it's on their page list, but I feel like that should have been at the top of the list. Like, hey, here are the patch notes down here, but here's the reason why we did the fix. They did it the other way around. I don't like the fact that they did that rather than just have the main issue at hand as to why we had to have an emergency hotfix, you know, regarding last night over the weekend, literally at Sunday. Like, Sunday going into Monday or whatever for them, but it's technically us Monday going into Tuesday. So Monday night, nobody could fucking play the game on reset. So now we've undergone reset. It is now 9:13. We have our new events that are coming up on the Dreams of Light. So tomorrow is going to be the Battle Buff Day, and today it's going to be Dragon Farms later today. So we'll get to see that hopefully, and I'll try to host PFs for some of the Dragon Farms. Even during the Battle Buff Day, I'm going to be trying to farm more shit. So the first post that I wanted to discuss was this lengthy motherfucker right here. So let's read this together, and I'm gonna widen this up so we can take a read. So it says regarding illegitimate waymarks and Abyssos Seventh Circle Savage. So this is P7 Savage. Um, and the waymark system I'll show off in a minute. For those that you don't know what it is or don't watch my Final Fantasy XIV content, it's kind of a very stupid system, to be honest. That well, I mean, it's a useful system, but it's stupid that it's being punished, in my opinion. It says we have confirmed in a situation which waymarks are being placed inside the battle area in Abysso 7 Savage, blah blah blah, through the use of third-party tools and other legitimate means or illegitimate means. We would like to explain the views of development and operations team regarding this situation with the consideration of the mechanisms of the waymarks. For those of you that don't know, let me describe what waymarks are first. So let me unmax this window, move it over here. Find this down, sorry. I made it too big. I'm in big boy streamer mode with my pants on. So let me, real quick, turn that off. And I'll show you what waymarks are for those that don't know. So this is Seed of Sacrifice Extreme. This is nothing. We used to do this shit back in the day on release. And it was a fun fight. So here's the fight, right? Now, normally that little ring that spawns in right there, while others are waiting in cutscene, usually if you try to queue into this as a group, this is not possible with one person right now. Because of the DPS check and the 2 ads, so I'm not gonna even try. I wanted to load this in because I have waymarks saved for this fight still, because I actually enjoy doing it. And you'll notice that I was able to instantly place them down. I opened up a menu. You can save up to only 5, which to this moment I still think is dumb that you can only place down 5. Or save 5. So if there's a fight with 2 instances, or 2 different situations, or a phase 2, you need to have 2 waymarks open, and you'll lose the waymarks for the previous fight. So, I mean, I have one for Hades for the cheese, and you can see I have Endsinger, Crown Storm, and fucking, yeah, like, I have 2 different sets of waymarks. But again, I have waymarks for Endsinger for the setup, and then the actual fight. Because there's, like, 3 parts. There's the 2 sets of 4s, the light party, and then clocks. And to set all that up, you would need a set of waymarks to be more efficient in a PF or just a pug. So a pug would, be able to use those marks. So waymarks are used for not only setting up for a fight, but to mark where everyone needs to be individually and know where they need to be. And that's the purpose to waymarks. That's what I wanted to try to describe. But you can only save up to 5. And the way these work is you would manually place them down. So you can see I'm placing them down, I'm canceling it out, and you can place them within the confines of where you could. So like out here, you can place them outside over there. You can place them out there. Even though the arena is a square for this fight, you can still place it out there. You can see on the mini-map above, it is a square. So why is it that I'm able to put a waymark all the way out there? The player never goes over there. You can't go over there. What about over there out in the ocean? Oh, look, I can place one out there. So it's placeable outside the map. The player cannot go out this wall. You cannot. Let's try to place it as far as we can, shall we? How about all the way at the bumfuck... right there. That's pretty far. That's outside the playable zone, but still placeable, right? So that right there, technically, is considered a ground object that the player could walk on. Because they didn't barrier off this level specifically. I picked this duty specifically because it allows you to place outside the map with restricted walls. Because there's technically a restricted wall. This is the wall right here. And this wall is present throughout the entire encounter, no matter what. It never resolves into a circle. You can never walk around the whole thing. So you are bound to this little square in terms of movement, but you can place that out there. Now, I'd like to think, before I go back to reading what I was reading, let me back out of this duty. I'd like to compare the way that waymarks work with housing. So, this is a private house. I'm not going to show off which ward or information, but... nice example. You can place objects in the walls. You can place objects in the... so this object goes outside the map that I have placed here. It's just a regular fountain. It's kind of one of the shittier looking fountains, but I have it clipped outside the walls to show only the fountain part. So is that considered against the rules because I have it clipped out the partially outside the map because it's a huge fucking object and I like it to be a fountain as a main part of my my hall, Is that considered against the rules at this point because it's technically outside your boundary? I didn't use an illegitimate tool. I placed it down. That's all that is you place it against the wall and turn it. And it gets pushed further in as a result. I mean, there's multiple objects, and housing glitches are very prominent, like being able to clip multiple fucking shits on the wall, clip individual wall paneling up into the walls, subfloor, which technically you shouldn't be able to do, but you can because you could level them all out, floating furniture up off the ground and onto a loft, like very basic stuff. Now, to mention the loft floating, with waymarks, if you're going into a duty, let me move the camera angle so that you guys can see a little better. In a duty, when you go to load in, as I said earlier, when you have a full party, somebody's in cutscene, some people will try to put down a waymark in the middle of that little circle that you're stuck in. They'll put down the waymark to try to set up for clocks. Sometimes, the waymark will get placed above everyone's fucking head. So those waymarks floating up here in an impossible spot, and then the circle disappears, and then it's just there. And then you could save that waymark, technically. But that's outside the placement area, right? Even that's why I thought that this concept, to me, was just beyond fuck all stupid. So let's go back to reading this together. Penalties regarding the waymarks. Waymarks are markers that can be placed on the field, therefore can only be placed when they're in contact with the ground. Well, we just saw in Seed of Sacrifice that it wasn't in contact with the ground that's in the playable area. When placing individual waymarks, they are validated by whether or not in contact with the ground. If they are not, then the waymark cannot be placed. How come I was able to place it in Seed of Sacrifice Extreme? That's very interesting. However, in the case of duties where battle area changes during combat, players are permitted to place waymarks in the changed battlefield after completing the duty and saving them to be used in the future. So, P7S, the contact that they're talking about, in particular, that particular one, it looks like this. So you can see that they're placed outside in certain spots, but they're only placed outside because during a phase change in the arena, it has this weird triangle pattern with circles on the corners. And those waymarks are placed on those circles or just slightly outside of them. I'm not sure where they are supposed to be because I've never seen these waymarks in circulation yet. I've been kind of curious as if anybody has. If you do have them, I'd like to be able to save them so I could look at them myself and see just how illegitimate that they are. But those were the quote-unquote waymarks that everybody's been talking about, or at least I've seen on Google so far. I don't know if there's anything that's like how you've seen on Seed of Sacrifice that's far outside the playable area that it shouldn't be. And that's when I think of when I hear the word illegal or illicit waymarks. I think, okay, this shouldn't even be possible to be out this far from the map. So if we continue reading this, as such, waymarkers placed have save slots that are not validated by whether or not they are in contact with the ground. In this case, third-party tools were used to illegitimately place waymarks at coordinates where they are not placed, or not normally placed. This placement was then saved and loaded by different players, resulting in circulation of waymarks with illegitimate coordinates. So, if I were to make a third-party program and save, for example, dickbag, but far outside the map of the playable area and very far away, and I distributed that, I would get banned for that? And it's not even viewable. Like, I would place them so far away and clipped inside of an object that nobody could see them at all, unless you're flying outside the map as a GM. Like, it is such... That is fucking bullshit. I'm sorry. Account penalties. The following investigation, we have identified the original player who illegitimately placed the waymarks and will be issuing an account penalty for the illicit activity. Notice how they say account penalty and not just permanent ban. Because for something like this to be on the fucking front news page or on their thing, I would think even if you had never broken the rules once, I feel like your account's automatically permanently banned. Because you're being made the example. Now, I don't like this because the fact that in the future, I feel like they're going to change the waymark system even more to where you can change waymarks mid-battle. Now, in a fight like P8S, where there's a second phase that loads up and then you're not in battle anymore, the whole instance resets with a checkpoint, and technically you could load new waymarks. I feel like in the future, not this expansion, but maybe next expansion, if there is going to be one, I feel like we're going to have the ability to move waymarks mid-battle. And we'll need to. Like, there won't be any stopping in combat flow, no cutscenes. It'll be a continuous fight, one straight through, no cutscenes, no bullshit, no checkpoints. It is just going to be a straight fight that takes like 20 minutes to do. And it's extremely difficult and requires you to switch waymarks because of how complicated it's going to be. And I would respect that. But if they allow for waymarks to be changed mid-battle, that's one more thing to chalk up on the bullshit board of saying, hey, look, this guy back then got banned for illegitimate placement, and you guys verified his third-party tools. What I'd like to ask is this. How do they verify that a third-party tool was used to place the waymark if a player was able to place them? And honestly, just looking at this image, this image in particular, it don't look that far from the three corners. From when it does into that phase change, I could go do a P7 right now and show the arena that's this describing, and I could see that those waymarks would be legitimate, but what I don't understand is how are they outside the map? They don't look that far. Again, this isn't the original waymarks, but I find it completely and utterly insane. So let's go over the account penalty. For this incident, an illegitimate waymarks can be saved and loaded without the use of third-party tools and other illicit means, and may be difficult for players to distinguish their legitimacy, and we will not be issuing account penalties for the use of illegitimate waymarks, which were saved and loaded via the waymark feature. So I want to ask this. The way that they worded this, it sounds like they investigated the people that had the waymark saved and were saying in chat, oh yeah, these are placed outside the map. I feel like they gave those people bans, like secret bans under the fucking table, and didn't mention anything at all. I don't approve of that either. Because again, they're not giving much clarity. They're only saying one person that did it with third-party tools, that they're confident with third-party tools, did it through illegitimate means. Now, if a player can place housing objects outside the map, like I just did, and it's through legitimate means, you could just place it up against the wall and rotate it over so that way the back half is in the wall, and its X value is a little different, then how should this be any different? It's just like being able to, outside your house, put objects on your fence, and clip objects floating atop of fencing. So you have floating fences, like floating decks, stuff like that. I would view Waymarks and the housing placement system pretty much the fucking same. So, let's go back. Moving forward, however, should you come across illegitimate waymarks placed outside of the battle area in any location that they cannot be placed via proper means, even after the battle area has already changed, we ask that you do not save or load them. So how is the player supposed to know what these waymarks look like? So if I save them and load them, and I don't know, you could down the line punish me for using them? Or on a whim, like if you really wanted to? We also ask that you delete any such waymarks that you have saved at any time. All waymarks placed outside the battle arena at the start of the Battle of Abysso 7 can contain illegitimate coordinate data. Alright, so let me just say this. You have a way to see the coordinates of every placed waymark in a fight. And you're able to see every individual player's waymark data. Why don't you just remove the waymarks from the person's save file? And then send them a notification through the support desk saying that we found that one of your waymarks had illegitimate coordinates, no punishment will be taken, we've just removed them from your account. Or from your player. Why? You could have did that in a hot patch. During the entire downtime that could have been done. If you really wanted to be that anal about that particular thing, you could have just went that route instead of banning somebody for it. And if they had a clear using that, I could understand wanting to just ban the account for a week or so and just be like, yo, look, you did this, we're not happy with it, whatever. But to also privately hint at, indirectly hinting at, punishing a bunch of other players, I think it's kind of dumb. Future implementations. As illegitimate waymark data is already in circulation and has provided an unfair advantage to players who have saved the data, and with consideration to existing player strategies, we have decided to allow all players to place similar waymarks in Abyssos's 7th Circle without relying on illicit means, specifically containing certain fields will be made slightly larger to allow for the placement of waymarks at the same coordinates through legitimate means. So, you're going to make the platform, the placeable area, more larger to fit the illicit area, so now that legit players can place those markers in those areas, even though illegitimate player somehow managed to put waymarks outside originally. So now you're just allowing it. What the fuck, Square Enix? For real? What the fuck? This is the fucking stupidest thing that I think you guys have done. Like, honestly, like, oh, hey, you know, these players, they saved it not, quote-unquote, not knowing, even though most people are in a voice chat these days doing, you know, some of these savage and extreme contents and with a static and whatnot. And without knowing that the waymarks were illegitimate, without knowing, we're now just going to allow everyone to do it. They had them saved. So, if you're gonna, why punish one person? You should have just punished the entire party that used them, full well knowing that they were using them. And then claiming that you don't know that they could have been using it, or maybe they didn't know, and this and that. It's like, well, why does your system allow you to place waymarks outside the map through third-party tools? Like, don't you have a detection system to detect if the waymarks are illegitimate in real time and be able to immediately go to that player or into that duty and instance, which, by the way, GMs can enter a duty or instance regardless of how many players are in the duty. So if there's a full party of 8 there, a GM could show up literally in the middle of the fight, 9 people in the instance, technically at that point. He can uninvis and be like, what the fuck is that? Why is there a waymark outside the map or outside this? Get rid of that waymark, reset. Nobody's in trouble, just undo this shit. Something like that would have fucking solved all of this bullshit right here. Because that whole page is nothing but bullshit. You know, just reading through this, the fact that they apologized and had to do a hot fix and, you know, waste 6 hours of time for the whole fucking patch. Which, by the way, their patch was literally just buffing the crap out of Paladin and Warrior even more, even though we didn't fucking need it. Confidier is now 1,000 damage instead of 900, which is just fucking insane. Besides those two things and upgrading a lamp in the housing item, you know, it is a shitty patch. I'm sorry, but this patch was the fucking shittiest one I've seen so far in years. I just wanted to vent. I really wanted to vent and stress this enough that this patch is beyond fuck all the most retarded fucking patch that I have ever fucking seen since I've started playing in Haven's Ward. Enjoy my Bob Ross.